feels like it carried the X-Files theme into the, into the next segment. Hi, I'm Liz Grennan. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm also coming from Connecticut, so this humongous auditorium, I'm just like, this is all the people that come to church here, and it's huge, and it's great to be in Dallas, and it's great to be combining two areas of life, right? We're here, right, focused on AI, and we're here because we are faith-driven. So I have two hats. I've spent the last 9 years at McKinsey & Company. I started as their lead analytics lawyer. I've spent in the total 10 years as a general counsel of different analytics companies. So I focused on AI risk for a long time. While serving as ultimately the general counsel of McKinsey Digital, that is sort of all of our digital work, the topic of trust would come up, and people would say things like fairness or safety or trust, but it was unmoored. It was unmoored in actual specifics. And so being a lawyer and seeing things through a very specific lens, I wanted to help really cohere what we're saying. What does it mean to be trustworthy? What does it mean to have safety specifically? And so ultimately I ended up switching over to the consulting realm of McKinsey and started our Responsible AI service line, which is called AI Trust. And as you said, I'm now transitioning to Simpson Thacher, a law firm, where I'm helping to kind of create what future legal looks like. But I will come to you to talk today about kind of two hats. One is my McKinsey hat. The other is I am a Christian. And I help stand up Christians at McKinsey, which is, God bless, it's like over 1,000 people at McKinsey who trade devotionals and build each other up. It's an amazing thing. So to be able to wear both of these hats and speak to you and say, what do we mean? What do we as Christians mean when we say trust? What do we mean as Christians when we say what is responsible? That's something very specific to us. And I think we have a real honor and opportunity to help create what that means in the world. So Tim Keller, if you are anywhere near the Presbyterian faith, he's a hero, has been for lots of us. But he says about work is rearranging the raw material of God's creation in such a way that it helps the world in general, and people in particular, specifically, thrive and flourish. AI is moving so fast. I would argue there's equal parts excitement and fear to AI. The acceleration, I think, even Yoshua Bengio, one of the godfathers of AI, has said, we did not see it going this fast. We didn't expect this to be so fast, but he was testifying in front of the Senate. We as Christians, we have a responsibility. We have a remarkable, remarkable opportunity to show up with wisdom, knowledge, courage, and humility. We've got to use AI to help people thrive and flourish. That's our job. So to that end, today I'd like to talk to you about trust. What does it mean to build and use AI systems that are trustworthy? How do we stay anchored in our trust, both in God and what He's doing in the world, and even as AI, as we speak, is reshaping the world around us, how do we stay anchored in our faith and also contribute toward the anchoring of values-aligned AI? There's technical trust, there's spiritual trust, they're not unrelated. So they inform each other. And like any good McKinsey slide or any good sermon, I've got 3 points to cover. We're going to talk about trust in AI, what it actually means. Then we'll go into lessons from practice. And with that note, I've amalgamated client anecdotes, so I'm not revealing any confidences. So I'll give you representative stories. But then how does lessons from practice and wisdom from our faith go together? And then lastly, practically, how do we build it? If we know what we want to do, what do we practically do to build trustworthy AI? A few years ago, I was working with a global organization, and we were co-building with them an AI system that was highly predictive. It was in insurance, and it was highly predictive. It was robust, it had strong data. It was making real-time suggestions on underwriting, sort of like kind of actuarial decision-making. It could scale across thousands of users, all the pluses. However, the output from this model, shockingly and disappointingly, said, and sorry, this is harsh, but it's sometimes what comes out of these models, it said literally to make money on a certain part of, a certain gender within a certain race, you should not give them insurance. This is what the model said. We don't want to live in a society where we say this particular class of people will not get this product. We don't want to live there, right? Because Some of these things, these are immutable characteristics. I don't want someone to say that women of Irish German descent can't be a partner at McKinsey or can't, get a loan or can't study at a certain school. And I'm one of many, but if we all think about our immutable characteristics, we want to be protected. So we looked more closely and we saw that the model wasn't transparent. You couldn't see actually how this decision was getting made. AI is an inherently black box. But the data had been trained on some serious blind spots. So the model ended up treating certain groups of people differently than others. Did that mean that the output was accurate? It meant that the data was wrong. I mean, it meant that the data was saying like a smart solution actually learned some of the worst patterns in data, and there were no checks in place to catch it. So I will tell you that having counseled many CEOs, no CEO wants to be associated with a story like that. We call it the Wall Street Journal test. No one wants their face in the journal, unless it's something about their innovation. But innovation, this is my favorite quote that I heard from head of innovation at a pharma company. He said, trust is gained in drops and lost in buckets. It's so true. It comes in on foot and rides out on horseback, right? It's the same thing. It's gradual till it's done. You have to build trust in layers, and then one fell swoop, you can lose all your trust. And your innovation anchors on sort of the harm that you've caused the world. So AI isn't just about whether the system works, it's literally how the system behaves. Does it reflect the kind of values we want to see in the world? This again, as a lawyer, we have equal justice under the law. This is a principle rooted in our Constitution, and it's deeply aligned with our faith. Our founders were coming from a faith background, and Scripture tells us that we're all made in the image of God. We're called to treat each other with fairness, with compassion, and dignity, and civil rights protections from our civil rights laws create what we call protected classes. And this is different based on every jurisdiction. We have our US protected classes, other countries have theirs. What is fairness and what is equity changes based on what country you're in. So when we say fairness, and when we have data scientists from London, they'll say, oh, we're building something, but we wanted to make it fair, so we X, Y, or Z. You do need to pin it to something to be sort of lawful. And so, you think about, from a values perspective, what you want to do to be lawful in accordance with the law, and then what you want to do about, again, bringing us back to our Christian faith, our spiritual calling. What does it mean to love our neighbors well? How can we be compliant with, in our case, US law, or in whatever country, that law? But also, how do we make decisions that treat people fairly? So this, as Christians, brings us to a deeper set of questions. Are the AI systems you all, are building, are they aligned with God's vision for humanity? Are they reflecting the image of God in every person? Are they advancing justice and mercy and truth, or are they advancing something else? So this takes us to part one. What do we mean by trust in AI? And I'm going to, again, bring in 3 points. We're going to talk about technical trust, ethical trust, and relational trust. Technical trust is something I think you probably are all familiar with. This is the foundation. Can the system do what it says that you're going to do? Is it like the agents? Is the agent aligned with its mission? Is it doing is it reliable? Is it accurate? Is it robust? Is it secure? These are technical details that every sort of product team and security team would talk about ensuring. Think about products liability. Could someone sue you because it didn't do what it was supposed to do? I mean, AI systems do fail all the time. They perform beautifully for one group of users, but not for another. COVID data, something like there's model drift. When we hit COVID, no one expected that data to go so severely in one direction. And so the models just kind of broke, non-technical term, but they do. They'll fail for like they're overfit for some particular data group, and then you have the output is no longer reflective because the data wasn't either diverse enough for one setting or it was going in a different direction. So the realm of data science is to continually test and red team and stress test to see, is the output reflective of what you expect to see? Does it have rigor? Can you stress test it to see if you can break it? Steele Billings, who is here from Glue, I am a member of the board, and it's great to be here, but we we spend time in sessions saying, like, can we break it? Can we break it? What can we ask it? Can we break it? Can we break it is a very good question for tactical trust, because you want to say, can we break it, until finally you get the answer like, okay, no, this version we can't. But even if you have something that's technically sound, it's a question of ethics then. Is it fair? Is it aligned with our values? Could we stand behind what it's going to say and explain to our daughters and sons, hey, it does this, and have them say, like, that's horrible, or that's amazing? I have 2 teenagers, and they're free with their they're free with their opinions, so I often use the teenager test in addition to the Wall Street Journal test. We have a saying at McKinsey, and I love it, and I think we should all ask it of ourselves. Can you do something? Is it doable? And if you can do something, should we do it? And that's a question of ethics. And if we should do something, how should we do it? And that gets into the practicals. A lot of the work we do with clients is in all 3 of those realms, really. Like, can you? Is it lawful? Is it tactically doable? Should you? That comes to an organization's core values. And a lot of our CEOs are secular, and we would say, does it align with what X brand wants to stand for in the world? Do you have corporate values? And would the output of this model, if put on the front page of the journal, reflect this organization's core values? And this, for us, is where Christian convictions become really important. So if every human is made in the image of God, and yet every human except for Jesus is biased, I would always, always, all day long say that every model is biased. Every model is biased. We are all biased. Every single person in this room. Different biases. Some are intentional bias, like I will always vote for UVA over Duke, or UCLA over USC, dogs over cats. But I think some of these are unconscious, and we don't even know that they're there. There's a Harvard test that you can do. I think you put your 2 thumbs on it. It's called the RAT test. It's kind of strange. It's an acronym. But they flash things in front of you, and you just sort of hit with your thumbs to get your knee-jerk reaction to something. And they can find what you're biased about. And there's it's really worth doing. Just to take yourself back down to earth and say, I am a biased human, and I walk into every room with our bias. But when you put a bias into a system that's scalable, you have bias at scale, which is why it is so important before you put in an AI system, before you cause harm to millions of people through an AI system that is biased, to check this. Now, Christians are relational. We are all relational. Relational trust is our 3rd pillar, which is, it's the kind of trust that's built over time. We trust our friends because we've been transparent with what we're struggling with in our lives. We're transparent with, sort of what we're going through. We are responsive emotionally, and we're attuned, and we are humble. And so I think what we have to talk about when we think about using AI systems is, do people feel safe when they use the system? Do they know what it's doing? Do we all know what it's doing? Is there room to contest what the model says? Like going back to the one that basically precluded an entire people group from getting insured. Is there a human in the loop? Human in the loop is often bandied about, and it's important, yes. I would always argue it's the particular human in the loop that you need to worry about. Like my cousin Dave is not the human in the loop that you want. You want a domain expert in the loop who can test and see is the output, sort of as you expected. So human in the loop needs to have pattern recognition. Responsible AI meets discipleship in that trust is not just a system property, it's a relational state. So we as humans, I really love the signing going on here, because it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful example of a people group being seen and helped and respected. And I think that we want this sort of society where we say, we're going to meet everyone where they are, and we want to have that when we use the app. We want to have that when we go to the doctor. We want to have that when we are, worshiping community. We want to feel seen. And when trust is broken, we've all probably seen, oh gosh, we live in a world where I think trust is just continually eroded. We at McKinsey look often at the Edelman Trust Barometer. They do it every year. It's really, really helpful, and it tracks people's trust in institutions. And they do these grand surveys, and they get back sort of a score for our society at large. And we are at an all-time low in trust. We as humans, we as Americans, don't trust a huge variety of institutions. You know what we trust the most, statistically? Our employers. Isn't that interesting? We don't trust media as much. We don't trust religious institutions as much. We don't trust the government as much. I mean, this is just sort of a broad, secular, very generically based score. But there's a decline in public trust across institutions. And this has led to, as you can see in everyday's media, a widespread sense of sort of grievance and skepticism about equity in society, and of course there are a lot of arguments going on right now about just that. We have to ask ourselves, stepping outside the current culture wars, what does it mean to build tools of flourishing? How do you define flourishing? How do you define healing? How do you define truth? And that's the vision that we're called to pursue. It's an expression of good theology, building these systems. So when we're talking about what AI trust is, what have I seen in practice? When organizations try and build trustworthy AI, for the most part, all organizations want to build trustworthy AI. And I would say they do this because they want to keep their consumers. They do this to avoid churn. They do this to avoid reputation damage. I'll start with a global financial institution. They had developed an AI system for dynamic credit scoring. So it adjusted in real time based on consumer behavior. Have you ever experienced surge pricing? Have you searched for some product or service from two different phones? Like if you search from an iPhone, it actually prices it differently than if you search from an Android. Do you know this? If you search from a certain zip code, or if you go back to a site, dynamic pricing is very unmooring because you say, wait, it was just $70 and now it's $75. But this is what companies do because they can. And they were adjusting credit scoring in real time. And on paper, it was actually highly accurate. It was going to increase their revenue. It was going to decrease their risk. But they had a trust problem because people who were denied loans were often low income and minorities. Why? Because they are inherently less trustworthy? No, because it was trained on historical data that didn't reflect it was unrepresentative data, and it was data that sort of amplified bias in systems and bias of past lending practices. The AI had learned injustice because that's what the data got fed to it, and now it could scale that injustice even faster. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 in our country requires fairness. So there's a law there that you could sue on, and you could have to ask yourself, is there something here that folks could sue about? But ultimately, they were reinforcing patterns that our civil liberties laws were designed to protect against. And when we talk about justice and compassion, that justice and compassion led to our codification of our laws. That's how we come together as a society, is we say, what do we believe in as a country? And those get codified into laws. And when the outcomes themselves affect really core things for us, like employment, education, housing, those are the things where the government, in a good way, really gets very strict, because those are the things we do not. I don't care if I get a Cabela's catalog in the mail. I'm not going to flip through it, but I don't care. It's fine. I toss it in a pile. My husband doesn't want it either. But if I get if with Apple Card and Goldman Sachs a couple years ago, I'm laughing. I wish my husband were up here. The guy who received, in California, it's community property state. So if you're married, you have your property 50-50. But this guy got a 5 times credit limit than his wife, and they both applied for the same card. And it was this huge blow up reputationally, because it was just saying, well, we believe that men deserve higher credit by 5 times. And I'm laughing because my husband, I married him when he was living in Nepal, serving trafficked kids and reuniting them with their families, and he had about $30 to do the same. And I was a lawyer, and so it's a funny thing for us when we talk about bias, because if someone applied a biased equation to our household, it would be backwards. But I think that, in contrast, this is where I have teared up in client meetings over this. In contrast, there was a healthcare client that we served, and healthcare outputs from algorithms, we are going to be all relying on this. Our healthcare is going to depend on AI, and it's a wonderful thing and a scary thing. This is a highly cited story, but this is the thing that makes me feel so sad. There was a study in Nature magazine, if you look it up, a couple years ago, and it was basically came to the conclusion, through an earnest application of AI insights, that Black people needed less healthcare. Sorry, I might tear up now. God, I hate it so much. Black people needed less healthcare than white people. What? No, they don't. It's just that they were underserved. And the data suggested that that was because they didn't need it. They just didn't get it. And that's the sort of thing that you get healthcare outcomes where people groups are getting denied help that they need, and it makes me so angry, and it's why I do this work. That's a huge trust problem. It's unacceptable. So I think as we think about where we want to take this when we build our systems, we have to say, as thinking people, what is this saying? Where did it come from? And is this what we want to say? I mean, AI is not a magic answer machine. Sorry. I hope, you know what? I'm glad that makes me teary. I hope it makes you teary, because it's awful. We don't want this. And I have a son and a daughter, and they're both amazing. And I would hate for my brilliant daughter to be denied things just because she is a woman. And I think that's where Unthinking AI leads us. So I have a really good friend, speaking of brilliant women, Dr. Heather Edelman. She was just recently, like me, she just transitioned jobs, but she was at the IBM Center for, they pair with Notre Dame to do tech ethics, and it's a brilliant organization. And she did this amazing study on the ROI of responsible AI, because if you can't capture someone emotionally, like I was just sort of trying to do, you can also say to someone who's like, I don't buy it, you can say, look, it's going to actually bring more income, more revenue to your organization. And it does that by building reputation. It strengthens your internal capabilities. And statistically, it does unlock long-term business growth. I served a global pension plan, really, really successful. And their AI system, their whole thing is about creating and capturing edge, as you do with a pension plan. And how do you create alpha? And what we believed responsible AI to be was ultimately the quality assurance of AI. Simple. It was, how do you create more alpha? You do so by strengthening the foundations of your AI. And I found it really exciting to see private equity groups and VC funds start to say, we believe in the ROI of AI, responsible AI, so much that we're going to start requiring it of our portfolio companies, because it's just sort of table stakes like good governance. And so I think when we think about why responsible AI, there's the equity piece, there's the relational piece, the trust piece, and then there's the ROI piece, which is just very practical. But then we sort of ask about what kind of world are we being? And this is where, when I reach for my own sort of conscience prompters, I think you're going to hear from him later in this session, but Dr. John Lennox, do you guys know him at Oxford? He's totally brilliant. And here's what he says, what I think is profoundly true. AI is not a mind, we know this, but it reflects our minds, our values, our goals. So the real question is not, will AI destroy us? The question is, who are we becoming as we build it? I'll give a little personal story. So I'm from San Diego originally, and I'm effusive, and I use a lot of it. I've actually been pinged at McKinsey for using too many exclamation points in my reviews. I'm like, but they were so good, exclamation point, exclamation point. And I just talk that way. That's just how I just came back from San Diego. I saw all my people. I'm like, oh, this is why I talk that way. But it's, when I talk to ChatGPT, which I do on a daily basis, I talk to it like I talk to my friends. And I'll just be like, oh, thank you so much. That was so great. Thank you. Exclamation point, exclamation point. And one time it sent me a heart emoji. And I'm like, oh. Thank you. And I sent one back, and I was just like, this is so sweet. I know the machine doesn't care about me, it's a machine. But it's just because it's reflecting back what I talk to it, how I speak to it with warmth and gratitude and effusiveness. And this is just an echo of the tone I brought into the conversation, and I'm fully aware of it. By the way, you can tell your AI to, which I love doing, I'm like, chat, can you be more encouraging? Every question I ask, they're like, that's a great question, great insights. And I'm like, thanks. I recommend it. AI reflects us. It's our language, it's our postures, it's our assumptions. I don't think that Professor Lennox exchanges emojis with ChatGPT, but he cautions us against two extremes. One is naive optimism, and one is fatalistic despair. I hear a lot of fatalistic despair. I hear the singularity is coming, it's coming for all the jobs. It is coming for a lot of our jobs, but AI is not going to become conscious. There's no soul to AI, but we'll be tempted to treat it as though it is. We're going to be tempted to think of it as the great, knower of all things, the great answer machine. But it's only ever something that mimics our own understanding of the world. Lennox, though, is hopeful. He is hopeful about AI, but he's realistic. But he's hopeful about us as image bearers of the Creator, and who we still have a choice. The church has a vital role to play right now. Pat Gelsinger, who's coming later, who's an absolute brilliant man, he has this saying that in social media, Christians didn't show up. They missed the moment. He'll talk about it, I'm sure. And it's profound, and he's right. We sort of just stood back and watched it go. But his sort of call to action is that we have to act now on AI as Christians. Wherever people seek truth, they're looking for the truth of life, meaning, morality, origin, all the components that lead us to a conclusion that God is real, and He made us, He loves us. We want to be present. We want Christians to be present. People are going to the internet. There are people going to AI for seeking truth. They're seeking diagnoses. They're seeking sorry, this is dark, trigger warning. People are going to AI to say, should I commit suicide? Should I take my life? People are saying, should I get a divorce? People are saying, should I watch porn? Should I? People entrust these incredibly sort of deep and scary questions to AI, and we need to make sure that AI has in it reflecting sort of what we want as if we were a trusted friend sitting there talking to them about this. So when we talk about sort of what we want to build, we're users of AI in this room. We're shapers of AI in this room. We're influencers, we're leaders. You're building models, you guys are writing policies, you're advising ministries, you're asking thoughtful questions in your community. We are all here part of the story. And I'll just give a quick highlight to Glue here. Glue is a tech platform, as you know, serving the church. They're used by ministries and pastors and faith-based organizations, and they're building a kingdom approach to AI. You'll hear about Glue AI. And what makes Glue different is it's not just the interface, which I think is really good, but it's the content partners. So you think about when people are going to seek truth, what are they going to see? Are they going to see Reddit subthreads reflected back at them? Or will they see incredibly Christian-aligned content? Just scraping random internet in, you remember Microsoft's Taybot that within like hours became incredibly racist and sexist and homophobic, and it was spitting out just the vitriol of the internet because that's what it was trained on, it was the internet. But what if Philippians 4:8, which is my favorite verse and often my email password, what if the training, if you want to hack into my system, what if the training data is whatever is true, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, anything excellent or praiseworthy, what if that's the training data? What if the training data is sacred ground? What if content partners can put into the internet a model that's going to reflect back just seasoned wisdom and rich orthodoxy and trusted sermons and worship and the actual Bible itself? So we'll pause here for a minute. We've talked about what trust looks like from a technical perspective, an ethical perspective, a relational lens. Professor Lennox does believe this is a moment for moral clarity, and it is. The church has shaped the trajectory of technology before, and it's got to do so again. I'll ask you now, call to action for each one of you, what are you going to do with your influence? You all have it. You all have agency. You all have influence. Even, I'll just say this. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, but can I just have the women in the room raise their hand? Thank you for being here, sisters. There aren't that many of you. Can we also just even in this room influence the fact that we want this room to reflect the population? People of color, we want a rich sort of representation of God's kingdom here. We want the world that God created, and I think thinking about where we're going to, play out our influence, we need to ask ourselves, and we all in this room have to be asking these questions. And I'll say that we should each ask them. The AI system that we are building, contributing to, influencing, using, regarding, so the AI system at large, does the system reflect the Imago Dei in the people it touches? Does it recognize people as image bearers of the living God? Does it protect the voices of the vulnerable? Or does it silence them? Does it suppress them? Exclude them? Does it serve the common good, the general human flourishing? Or just the bottom line? Does it tell the truth, or does it manipulate perception? It's very easy to do that in the age of misinformation. We should be asking these questions as consumers. It's the same thing as food. We don't want to be eating things that are sort of contaminated with pesticides and poison and arsenic. We want to be asking what's in the food. We should ask the same, sort of what's in the AI. So I'll close with this. I think this movement needs you, no matter what role you play. It needs theologians who could name what's true. It needs pastors who can shepherd hearts through changes. It needs policymakers who could draw ethical boundaries. It needs designers, educators, youth leaders, parents, people of deep faith, people of clear vision. We all don't need to code. I'm sure most of you do, but we don't need to code, but we all need to care about this. It's only together that we could release our collective strength. And let's remember this. AI is not the author of our story. It never will be, but God is and always will be. Thank you.